Hello, NAAIA community. Get ready to relive insightful discussions, gain fresh perspectives, and be inspired by the wealth of knowledge our community has to offer. Let's dive into another episode.
I and my panelists are very excited to be here with you today. We're here to talk about a topic that's sort of everywhere and taking over the world by storm. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is virtually everywhere, but it's not new. The concept has been around at least as long as I've been born, which has been a long time now. And it's really the question of, can a machine think, right? Alan Turing, who some of you may know about, was one of the fathers of computer science, and he actually broke the Enigma code during World War II. He had a test, and it's referred to as the Turing test, and that is we've reached artificial intelligence when a computer can convince a human that they're talking to another human. So are we there yet? We're not sure. I think we're very close. I'd love to hear from my panelists about it. But let's think a little bit about, how we're using AI in today's world. We're using it on a daily basis. Every time I look at my phone to unlock it, it's using face recognition. If you use Alexa or Siri or any kind of navigational system in your car, that's artificial intelligence. When I put my finger on my fingerprint on my laptop every day instead of typing in my password, that's artificial intelligence. It's virtually everywhere, and it is very ubiquitous in the insurance arena as well. There's automated claims processing, image recognition, fraud detection, predictive analytics, natural language processing, and chatbots, customer interaction, remote inspections that we're seeing. I just this morning got an email from a fire consultant with a Matterport, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen that, but that is so cool. I love Matterports because it allows you to zoom in to a building or an area, and just as if you were there, you can see, you can move your cursor up and down, and it's as if you were in the room itself. So there's a lot of very, very exciting things that are out there that we're going to talk to you about today. And the message is, don't be afraid. It's all good, and it's all going to be positive until it's not. So, Yvonne, let me start with you. How do you think, what specific ways do you see artificial intelligence being used by claims adjusters?
I really see claims adjusters being able to utilize AI to really help streamline what's going on at their desk and helping them to be more efficient overall. If you just look at it and just think about the types of things that are coming in at the adjuster level that are time zappers, that are, asking, is your claim is my claim still open, or has that check been issued? Utilizing AI now, those types of things through AI or bots can be answered, through the AI, leaving the claims adjuster open to do the analyzing that they need to do in their roles. So I think in terms of anything from just the claims processing through to areas of even SIU that we'll see and be able to benefit from utilizing this at the desk level. Again, it just really sort of removes the those tasks through automation to help us be much more effective at the desk level.
And Brandon, what do you see it being used for?
Yeah, I think Yvonne made some really, really good points there. In addition to that, what I've seen is the opportunity to kind of use it in a day-to-day basis for like independent adjusters in particular. One of these things is, some of the table stakes, right, is using AI within video conferencing calls. If you're taking a statement, interviewing folks, witnesses, insurance claimants, et cetera, you don't necessarily have to do that, in the field if you don't need to. You could do it over a video conferencing website like this. Funny enough, I saw kind of a disclaimer that popped up when I first logged in here, saying that there may be AI being used to enhance this call as well. And so that's some of the table stakes. And a lot of us have probably seen an AI actually within a call, but don't necessarily know what's going on with it. On the back end, a lot of this software actually provides the ability to have not only the conversation transcribed, but also summarized as well and give you action items. So you have this conversation and all the things that are done by in the past that took, a number of other hours, right, to finish are already done instantaneously. Another tool that's being used is using recorder apps. I'm a huge fan of Google in general, so you're going to probably hear me talk about Google a few times today. Sorry, I'm not being paid by Google. Believe me, I don't represent them. But I'm just a huge fan of some of the tools they have. On Pixel phones, they have this thing called a recorder app. And that actually does the same thing. You can actually take a statement if you're doing this in person, and it'll actually record. You can use this to record the statement, and it'll summarize it as well instantaneously. Non-independent adjusters can have all this information done pretty much at the moment that they actually finish their investigation or finish a certain task in their investigation, instead of having to then spend more time going back, listening to a recording, doing a summary, et cetera. So that's some of the table stakes right there. A couple of things we'll get into a little bit later on as well, but that's what I've seen so far.
And I'm actually trying to figure out how to use the chat here, and I'm not doing too well, so I need some assistance with with AI, because it says I can only chat with the hosts and the panelists, but
Okay.
it's not letting me put anything in the Q&A either. So I think I need some tutorials, but we do have the links, and we will get them to
Yeah.
the group as soon as possible. The the thing that is amazing to me is how quickly things are taking on. ChatGPT, for example, I'm sure a lot of you have tried ChatGPT. In the first 5 days that it launched, it had 1 million users, 1 million users in 5 days. And as of February of this year, there are 1.6 billion people that visited the site to use it. And I've played with it. Got to be careful with it. You have to verify what's out there, but it is very interesting. And there are so many new tools that can really help us be more efficient. So, what do you think this is going to do with jobs in general? Brandon, do you think that, IAs just should just, go in for early retirement or find something else to do?
Absolutely not. I think that we're at a really unique place right now with AI. It's the beginning of it. I know we've heard a lot of AI in recent time, but the actual mainstream use of AI is new right now. And so if you're someone that hasn't really embraced the technology just yet, don't be discouraged. Like I said, it is the beginning, and you can actually find ways to enhance your skill set to help, augment your claims processing. I think once again, some of the table stakes that one can have or use is definitely the Google AI Essentials course. That's a course you can get online where it kind of breaks down, what AI is, understanding some of the basic terminology associated with it, and how to use it, pretty much immediately once you're done with the course. While you're actually taking the course, you can actually use it really quickly. And that gives you the ability to kind of like know what's going on here, right? Another tool that can be used once again is summarizing using ChatGPT, and or Google has their own Gemini piece within documents, within Google Docs. You can actually hover over, highlight a lot of content and be able to get that summarized as well. So how I see this is that it's really going to augment the adjuster's job, the IA's job, and it's going to make their time be more efficient, right? So the time you spent on the road you may not necessarily need to have, because you could do a video call with someone, or you can do inspections virtually as well. So there's just the ability to really use these tools to make sure that time isn't wasted where it doesn't need to be. So adjusters may have the ability to actually make more money because they can actually handle more claims because of the fact that the time being spent is actually being spent more efficiently, in opposed to being spent doing some of the mundane routine tasks.
So Yvonne, do you
Yeah,
agree?
and I think that,
Can we put
oh,
up put away
absolutely.
the ladders now? You still have to go up on the roof?
No, I mean, and that's the beautiful thing. I can remember when I was an outside adjuster, and this was many, many moons ago, but when I just think of the windshield time that I spent on just some of the basics, where I would have to go to a scene to take photographs of the intersection. Now you can utilize Google Maps and see that scene. And I'm not saying in all instances you don't have to go to those places, but in terms of efficiency and speed of being able to get your claims moving in the right direction, these tools are fantastic. Same thing with the use of drones. I was just at a recent seminar that was talking about those, giving an example of the multiple car accidents that were spanning many, many, many miles. And they were able to deploy drones very early on to be able to get that aerial look to see where all of the various points of impact and things were. Back in the day, that would have just taken forever. So, those are just some very easy examples of how we can utilize the technology that's out here today to be more effective. And, as Brandon was saying, it's really all about how can I get the information that I need, make a determination, and move the claim to resolution. And these tools are out here now to help make that happen, for us to make a faster decision on our claims handling.
And what are the unique qualities that independent adjusters have over artificial intelligence that are going to still enhance them and make them competitive in the market? Brandon?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Maria. You have to think about it. Most folks that are involved in accidents, or anytime they're filing an insurance claim, especially one that requires, an IA in person, it may be the one and only time they submit a claim. And that comes with its own, its own challenges. And one of those things is sometimes someone has a question about the claim settling process, or they have questions about, well, what about this scenario and that scenario? And I feel like an AI or a chatbot can only do but so much, or answer but so much. A lot of times you want to be very careful, and this kind of gets into your realm, Maria. You be careful about the legalese. You don't want your AI to basically do something that's going to, make the insurance company liable for, extending out coverages, right, that there wasn't coverage for. So I know that there's going to be a lot of times going to be a little bit of hesitation in terms of just, just dumping a lot of these administrative tasks into an AI chatbot. So the IA, their job is to be there to represent the insurance company and be able to explain its process, do some of the hand holding as well, and take care of the customer. And another piece to make a point of is what happens in a catastrophe. Sometimes you don't have access to the internet, right? Even here, as I'm working, I've just got one little FiOS line that's connected to my house. If that's snipped, I'm done. I'm out of work until I can get to the next coffee shop, right? So the ability for someone to be able to go onto a scene that maybe necessarily have internet or have fast internet, this person in person can actually go there and alleviate some of these concerns that customers may have as well. So some of that empathy, the explanation, and the experience associated with that person is going to be something that an AI can never duplicate.
Well, and you raise an excellent point with regard to losing power, right? I know how I feel when I lose my phone for just a few minutes. It's like you feel like you've lost your arm, or you're, like you can't function, right? Or if your computer is not working right, it's like you're stuck. So we all have to, be able to have our inherent skills and our abilities to do things without all of these enhancements, right? How do you think that plays into the newer generation of adjusters coming into the industry, Yvonne? Like, the balance between technology,
Yes.
and, using a pad and a pencil and doing a job.
Well, and then if you think about it, the newer generation that's coming into our industry, all they know is technology. They've grown up with it. Having that phone in their hand, the tablet, etc. That's their comfort level. I think where some of their challenges could potentially be when we talk, going back to what Brandon was saying about the interpersonal skills of being able to, read a room, read a person, not something that you're looking at on your screen, because that's important, especially, as Brandon was saying, in any type of claim, most people, that is their one and only experience in the whole claims process, and how we come and hold their hands, walk them through this process, developing trust and rapport, that empathy that we're talking about is so critical in maintaining claimant control. The last thing I want is this person to run off and get an attorney because of the legalese or something that they feel like they're not understanding the process. That's the role of a claims person when there's a loss. So I think we're in a fantastic time right now of marrying these two happenings of the claims industry as we know it and as it's moving. And the important thing is just to embrace it, not be afraid of it. Like Brandon was saying, spend some time getting to play with it. So many organizations, different companies are all sort of deploying different types of AI. And believe it or not, it's been here for, like you were saying, Maria, for a long, long time. I mean, I can think back to 15, 20 years ago, there was some sort of predictive modeling that companies were utilizing, things that were going on behind the scenes, of looking through claim notes, trying to find those particular buzzwords or things that could potentially, or venues that could make that claim go from a normal claim to a policy limits claim before you know it, and making sure that all the right eyes were on it to prevent that from happening. And so now, I mean, even things, for example, one of the things that used to infuriate me as a manager is, the claims adjuster would be waiting for the demand package to come. And then it finally arrives, but it's 250 plus pages. And that's the diary that keeps being kicked down the road because the adjuster is saying, oh, I don't have time to go through 250 plus pages of medicals. Well, there are AI programs now that can help to read that material and summarize some of that information. The adjuster still has to be able to analyze, what is this telling me? What does it mean? Is it true? Like you were saying, Maria, about verifying the information that you're getting. But it can help pare down that 250 plus demand package to something that's more reasonable, that the examiner can now say, all right, let me complete my evaluation and let's get this moving, preferably without having to be in litigation. So I just say that to mean that there's just so many different areas that I think that we're just sort of touching the very tip of the iceberg as to how we can embrace technology and use it to our benefit.
Yeah, and you mentioned SIU before, Yvonne, and it's something that I work very closely with insurance fraud. And what I find fascinating is, the ability just to go through so much information, public records, social media, in just seconds, and, find things that it would take somebody, weeks or months even to get through in just a few seconds, right? But there is also, things to watch out for. I'm sure you've all heard of deep fakes and how that's happening. I've heard, I haven't experienced, but I've heard of people getting phone calls that somebody, some loved one is in some terrible accident, and they actually have that person's voice, obtained through maybe, a phone call that you answered, maybe a spam call that you got, and they take your voice and they can now replicate it, right? And so how do we protect against this? Like what's out there?
I think having, once again, that's where the experience IAs come into play, right? Being able to see this, validate this. I think there was a question in the chat by someone, Alex. How do we know for sure that these panelists aren't actually AIs themselves? That actually is a great question that leads to this. Yeah, it's tough to say that. I mean, right now we know AI isn't as good as being able to do the nuanced human emotions, interactions, etc. However, as it continues to learn, it may get there one day. Getting back to talking about the deep fakes, et cetera, one of the things that does concern me to keep an eye out on is going back to those big demand packages, right? Yvonne made a really good point. What if you have someone, that is quite savvy at wording a demand package a certain way or having medicals written a certain way that would trigger an AI to think, if you will, that a claim is evaluated much higher or that the injuries are more exacerbated than when they actually are. But then you just kind of leave it in the hands of AI to just say, hey, push this through it and give us an evaluation, right? And somehow the demand package talks about fractures, let's just say, and there actually wasn't a fracture. But it's talking about, the potential of a fracture, et cetera, and triggering these words, right? We want to be making sure that even though we use this, we use them as tools, right? Just like the computer was a tool that we used back in the 80s, people thought that was going to take away jobs. But what it did was that it didn't take away jobs, it took away some of the mundane, routine tasks, right? So the folks that were using the computers that were just being a stenographer, for instance, can now be upskilled. And so that's the same concept here. AI is going to be used to take away some of those mundane tasks and give us the ability to really, be able to focus in on what needs to be done. So having the ability to have a human review this information on top of the AI doing that's where we want to see that. We want to see the blend between using this tool and also being able to use the human element to it. So that's the important part to this, and I think that's the best way to get around deep fakes or some of the inconsistencies that can be drawn up from just depending on AI.
Well, there's also a component of, unintentional consequences when you're using AI to at a certain level to make some determinations. There's um, some types of claims that can be determined because they're going to be paid unless there's some type of flag on it. And so it's straight through processing is what they call it, right? But you can have unintentional consequences in those types of actions too. You need a human, right, to audit it. And I don't know, Yvonne, what your thoughts are about that. How do we balance the ability to, you know, have the speed, have the ability to use all these tools with um, ensuring that we're not treating certain types of people or certain, classes of people unfairly.
Yeah, and that really just goes back to, I think, to how things are set up and then the checks and balances that are important in any type of program that you're going to run to ensure that it is giving you what you want. I think I just think about sort of like that garbage in, you're going to get that garbage out. So there has to be guardrails around it and a check and balance to make sure that you're not going to have some of those unintended consequences of you can have the best idea of what we want to get out of something, but you've got to check and verify it. And I think that's the important thing. But it does, I think it can, if done right, can eliminate a lot of errors and weed out duplicate type of situations.
Now, the various state insurance departments have developed regulations around AI, and specifically to make sure that the use of it is transparent, that it's not discriminatory, that it doesn't have any unintentional consequences, or worse yet, intentional consequences, where it's not being used in a fair way. But and I am aware of Crawford, that has signed up to I think the European Union standards, and is also developing their own standards for their internal use of AI. But like, how what should someone who's not affiliated with a large company, how should they, what can they do to make sure that their use of artificial intelligence is not going to cross over into any problem areas? Brandon?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Well, first of all, if you're going to be using AI tools for any kind of work, especially if you're talking about things that fall within HIPAA compliance, GDPR, cybersecurity, et cetera, you should not be using any of these free tools that are out there. From my understanding, these free tools, if you use the free version of ChatGPT, for instance, once the information is out there, that's essentially public. So if you're going to be using it, it's going to have to be on the enterprise level and or a paid subscription, so that information is kept private for you. Obviously, you want to make sure you review the T's and C's, et cetera, any of these things that you use. But that's the important aspect. These companies that make this, they have a vested interest in making sure that this information is private, making sure the information is secure and not and not hackable, if you will. Because if they do lose that, if the information is let out there, that discredits the organization, and that can have a huge problem on the bottom line. So those are things to keep in mind. Don't use the free version for information that is private. Use the enterprise version, pay for it, and making sure you review the terms and conditions to make sure that information does remain private.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also just important to to speak with your company. Ask your senior leaders, what are we looking at as an organization? Because like we said, most companies are trying to remain competitive, and part of that is having these enhancements to make their customers' experience better. And so there's probably a lot of different things that your company already is utilizing, either through a vendor or something developed within the company themselves, that may not have maybe be being used in another department and not necessarily in the claims world at the moment. But that's good conversation to have with your senior leadership. Is what are you looking at for claims specifically, and volunteer to test drive some of that stuff. That gives you a chance to give some feedback within your organization, and show that you're willing to try out these new things. They're not going away. So I think it's important to embrace it.
And one of the things that I think is going to be the most challenging is finding the balance with AI, so that you don't lose the that personal touch that we all talked about that's necessary, and also just understanding differences in culture. Like, things can be misinterpreted so easily, and if you don't have if you don't have a good understanding of the fact that there are differences in people's cultures, you can get some really bad results pretty quickly. Do any of you have any experience with that, or any thoughts on that?
It's interesting you say that. There's a lot of nuance, right, with cultural differences, language differences as well. And I think that gets back to another point here. I'm going to deviate just slightly from specifically AI, but this is the importance of why we need to have a diverse talent base in insurance in general, because of the fact that um, if we're talking about people or independent adjusters in particular that are handling claims for folks, for general public, um, there's folks of every different type of ethnicity, background, and all that stuff. So being able to have folks that are that also share those commonalities is important, and that's one of the ways, once again, that AI definitely not there now. Who knows if it'll be there at some point in the future to be able to understand that nuance and be able to communicate on that level. I don't see it being there because as humans, that's some of the that's some of the benefit of being human, right? It's just these differences. Things change all the time. Our language changes all the time. Even with the advent of AI and technical platforms, there are different words that are used based upon the fact that we have this new technology. So, it's always changing. That's who we are.
So do you think AI is going to understand emojis?
It's going to understand what an emoji is from binary code. Will it understand, what happens when we create a brand new emoji in the context of it? It'll take some time.
Okay. So what do you think are the potential challenges that an insurance adjuster may face or an independent adjuster may face in trying to integrate artificial intelligence into their business operations? Yvonne?
Well, there's always the cost around a lot of these. We were talking about as companies are looking at, what can be integrated, what should be integrated. And so you've got the cost factor. Then there's the human part of it of people don't always like change, and that can be scary. Change can be scary. And so there can be a learning curve on some of those things to help for them to be the most effective use of those things. You've got to have people willing to use the product, and technology is just fast moving. And so I think, as Brandon was saying, as we get comfortable with one thing, there's something else already ready to come. And so it's just going back to, like I said earlier, just being open, understanding that that's how you maintain your marketability in the industry, and not being afraid to put yourself out, learn something. Webinars just like today, where we're talking about some of these other things that are going on within the industry. Again, bring that back to your senior leadership and talk about, hey, I've heard about X, Y, and Z. Is that something that we're looking at? Can we look at it? How can we bring that in? Because at the end of the day, the thing I've heard throughout my 30 plus years career in this industry is it always comes down to a time element. And a lot of these tools that we're talking about today help to take away the mundane task and allow you to have the time to really analyze what's in front of you, make those determinations, be it the injury, be it the liability, et cetera. And these things really help to do that. And I think put the professionalism in our industry that we may not have always had.
I'm going to sound a little bit old right now, but like one of the things that kills me is how things are constantly changing. Like Outlook just changed, and then you get a new version of something in your software and everything changes and nothing looks the same and you have to re-educate yourself. But I mean, that's sort of where we're at as a society, and I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. Hopefully things will be easier to use, right? Instead of more complicated. I think we're certainly going that way. with, ease of use. I just got,
I wish, oh, sorry.
sorry, I just got a voicemail message today. I mean, I was at a meeting. I couldn't take a phone call, didn't recognize the number. It went to my voicemail and it said tap here, and I had never seen that before. So I tapped just to see what the heck happened, and I got a transcript of the message, and I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I know you already get the transcripts, but I didn't realize I could just tap and see it as it was happening. So I mean, it's just new things every moment, right? And you can't like be afraid, but you got to be mindful and know that there's also a lot of scams out there. So you got to,
Yeah.
ask questions and make sure you're looking at the right things. But
And I was going to say, I wish that some of these things were in play when when I was an outside adjuster, like I said, 1,000 years ago. But I had the atlas maps in my back seat, and had to sit
what's
on the side
that?
of the road and figure out how to get places. Now, I mean, you've got, MapQuest or Siri or whatever navigation system you have in your vehicle that just makes it so much easier. And like we were talking about earlier, being able to deploy a drone and be able to look at the roof damage on a person's home claim versus having to get on the ladder and go up and see it yourself. I wish those things were in play when I was much younger in this industry. So I'm excited to see what's going to come next.
Me too, but I want you to think about something else. I feel like I'm dumber now because I don't ever to where I'm going, and I just like follow whatever navigation is on my, in the car or on my phone. And so I really don't know how to get anywhere on my own.
That is true. I agree with you
There's got to
there.
be a balance, right? There's got to be a balance. Um, and Brandon, like, how do you, what advice, what takeaways, if you will, do you have for folks with regard to using AI and the future of AI for IAs? No, sorry,
Yeah,
AI for IAs. Yes, that's right. I got
yeah.
it.
Uh, Before I jump into that, I just want to say real quick, I'm the one annoying friend that I actually have the GPS on but not activated. So I'll have the live map on my phone as I'm driving around, just so I can at least know and be familiar with the area and still get lost. So that's the reason why I'm the annoying person, because my friends are like, dude, just press the navigate button. What are you doing? But that's a sidebar. Sorry. Um, to get into this, I think that there's the takeaways I wanna say here are things that IAs can actually use pretty much immediately within the next day or so. Number one, like I said earlier, is actually doing the Google AI Essentials course. If you're not familiar with AI at all, understanding how to properly prompt the AI, the chatbot, etc. So I would say that understanding what it is, understanding the terminology, how it can be used. Two, finding extensions or software that can enhance when you are on a video call, understanding how the AI tool can be used and make your time more efficient, like I talked about earlier. Three, if you do have a Pixel phone or something similar, finding that recorder app that can help you when you're actually out in the field taking statements that can transcribe and also summarize statements immediately for you. That will take away so much additional time that you don't need to be spending when you're investigating a claim.
I put
And then
a disclaimer, make sure you get people's permission before you record them.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I want to make that's important. It's permission, right? This is the proper common courtesy, digital currency, not currency, digital courtesy. Digital currency is a whole separate topic. We won't get into that today. But yeah, you got to make sure that you get the okay or get the okay from folks. Just to impose your AI into a video call is not cool without getting permission. And that's another way that we as a society have to change, right? How do we properly use these tools with permission that's generally acceptable? Um, and then the last piece I would say being able to use, like I said, enterprise or free or not the free version of ChatGPT and or Google Gemini within your organization to help you, summarize documents, summarize information that you have as part of your investigation or part of evaluation of your BI claims or any other claim that has substantial documents. So those are kind of like the four takeaways there. I believe you shared the link, or we'll have to get the links out to folks that are takeaways right now that IAs can actually use. Just want to make sure that folks do walk away here with some actionable items.
Yvonne, anything from you?
No, just as we said, we see it a lot on just even little things. I just the other day was opening a PDF, and automatically, the chat box opens on that and starts saying, "Hey, do you want me to highlight particular things, or are you looking for something? Put it in here." And so it's just everywhere, like you were saying, Maria. And so using it for good are, I think, the takeaways that are important. Look at how you can use these advantages to maximize your time, maximize your efficiency, and be able to make a decision faster, quicker, get that claim to resolution, cut down the duration time, and a closed claim is a good claim, I always say.
And my takeaway is always double check everything. Do some spot checking, those summaries or those, areas that are highlighted. Is this making any sense, or, is it confused? Just today, again, I was, one of my emails was about a Florida attorney who's up for disciplinary action because he was, I guess he didn't check anything that he submitted to the court, which and unfortunately the AI he utilized made up stuff because there's generative AI and it depends on what information they're drawing from. So like there's a lot of fake information out there.
It's a tool, and it's a tool, not to be a straight cut and paste out of anything. You've got to verify it for sure. Put the human touch on it.
None of us are going to be out sailing on a yacht while AI right? But the good news is none of us should be out of a job either. So
definitely not lawyers in this landscape.
Hopefully not.
If it's all right, I'd like to throw a couple of different just pointers out there, kind of like on the enterprise side. So organizations or people that are comfortable with AI, there's other tools out there in addition to what I described earlier. There's claims management systems out there that embed AI directly into the software. So many of the benefits that we discussed today are like native within the system itself. AI being used in predictive analytics. We talked about this earlier. Harnessing the power of AI to analyze, past data to, predict future outcomes. Understanding past claim resolution, using that data to estimate, the timelines of new claims. Using the AI for claims complexity scoring, based upon the first notice of loss and the progress of the claim. AI can be used to help the adjuster know, hey, what are the next steps to be mindful of, and what additional information should be gathered now to prevent, not being able to resolve that claim sooner or within the appropriate evaluation. And then quality assurance, using AI to help do that. I'm sure everyone here loves doing the claim auditing, but being able to have AI to augment that. So once again, maybe it's not as much time, actually going through each file note, et cetera. The AI can actually be used to kind of do the mundane task. And now the leadership person is now using that audit, going through the information, that some actionable items, be able to have that conversation with an adjuster or with their claims person, so they can understand how to better handle that claim or whatever needs to be addressed. Once again, that's using AI to enhance, someone's job. And, because you use AI for quality assurance doesn't mean that an auditor is out of a job. It just means that the auditor has a tool that's going to, once again, reduce the mundane task and be able to help them, basically move them in the appropriate direction to get the audit resolved, done, and being able to have that actionable advice for the claims specialist and the claims professional.
Well, thanks for those excellent points. And I'm going to move over to the one real question that we have in our Q&A. From Gavin Lee. Hey, everyone. Thanks for the phenomenal session. I'm currently a student at Georgia State University. Thanks for joining us, Gavin. In the rise of AI, how can I utilize AI now in college to help myself become a person of value within the company I work for when my career in insurance starts? Anyone want to tackle that?
I think that's a really good question, Gavin. Thank you for participating and for the question as well. I think it's two things. One, you're in a unique position currently being in school, being able to take advantage of any kind of AI courses if there are there, or being able to go, online and finding other courses that your school may not necessarily have, being able to understand it, right? How AI can be used and embedded into insurance in general. Understanding APIs are used to link AI models into different systems is important. And I'm not necessarily sure where you are in terms of what your anticipated career is going to be in insurance, if it's going to be on the tech side, or if it's going to actually be in operations, being out in the field. But if you're going to be out in the field, like like an independent adjuster or a company adjuster, nothing can replace actually having that experience. And so I think having the inquisitive nature of being able to go out there and investigate claims is really going to enhance your ability to be an effective member of that claims team. And there's nothing that can replace experience. No AI is going to be able to replace experience. That's really it. So being able to educate yourself, stay up to date on education, while also getting that experience will be the two things I would highly recommend.
Yeah, and you may have to go up on that ladder after all.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You can still you can go there, use your drone, get up there, take a look at everything, and being able to evaluate it.
But I do think there's value actually to going up and looking and touching and feeling.
Yeah, maybe like a one-story roof, like a flat roof or something like that.
Right,
Get that experience out.
So Jasmine just asked a question. Jasmine Mincy. Hi, how do you think this will impact claim professionals ensuring they are acting in good faith and avoid accusations of acting in bad faith? Yvonne, you want to?
No, that's a really good question. I think really, again, it's we can never abandon any parts of the role to any type of AI type of program or system. Yeah, automation. Thank you. That was the word I was searching for. And so, if we're always doing or trying to do the right thing, knowing whatever state insurance laws that are applicable to your area, and making sure that you're staying within all of those guidelines that need to be. These new things that we're talking about, or newer things that we're talking about, are really designed just to enhance your role. But it's always doing the right thing in your file that will get you, or at least keep you out of trouble of any bad faith situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's like always have a good amount of skepticism, I guess, if you will, when you're looking at everything. You can't just accept something. Oh, AI told me it was this way, so that's the answer, or this is what we're going to do here. I mean, you always have to analyze.
Yeah, knowing where the resources come from. Yeah.
And making sure that you're using tools that have been vetted, that are, ensuring privacy of individuals, that aren't being discriminatory, and just to give an example of that, it's not a new thing. I think like about 10 years ago, Amazon had an example of unintentional discrimination. They used AI to search for candidates to hire engineers. And because the algorithm was set up in a way that looked for the highest paid individuals, assuming that that meant that they were the best, okay, all of the candidates that they received were white males. And that's just because statistically there are more male engineers and white males get paid better. And so the algorithm had an unintentional bias. And it wasn't a diverse, talent pool, and they realized that. So, I mean, those are the types of things you have to watch out for and make sure that it's not happening when you're using AI tools. And, hopefully that whatever vendors you're using or whatever companies you're using, are watching out for those things. And there has to be transparency. It can't all be in a big black box. It can't just be I press a button and I get a result, and you don't know how that information is being gathered or where they're looking or how they're coming up with the results. So those are the things that in a very unscientific way we have to watch out for.
I would just like to add there too. I think there's an opportunity here. This question actually brings up an idea. It's being able to leverage AI to constantly monitor what the what good faith laws are out there, or fair unfair claims practices acts are out there for each state, right? Having AI there that can watch that, and having an organization making sure that they're constantly training to make sure that they are meeting those expectations or exceeding those expectations of the states they operate in. I think.
Of lawyers.
What was that?
Now you're really trying to get rid of lawyers if you want AI to.
Oh, sorry about that. All right. Well, no, but I think training. Well, I think training, right? Constant training. It can't be a situation where you're trained on how to operate in good faith one time when you're initial adjuster training or just getting on board. This has to be something that's done on at least an annual basis. That's the first thing. Second part of your question, unfortunately, there's no way to avoid accusations being made. Anyone can accuse anyone for anything, right? So accusations always be made, but the important part is being able to make sure that files are being documented properly, to ensure that any evaluation that's being done in the claim or any process or steps that are being done in the claim file are acted in good faith, right? And documented properly. And that's really going to be the best way to defend against bad faith. And I can't go any further than that. I'll leave that to the lawyers. But the fact of the matter is that proper documentation and making sure that you are operating within the guidelines of your company, within the guidelines of the regulations of the state.
Yeah, no, and you bring up a great point, Brandon, about a good use of that, of AI running in the background, going through and scouring through all the claim notes to use that as training opportunities if you're finding situations where things aren't being documented the way they should be. And I know from a lawyer standpoint, you always hated that situation where the blow up of a claim note that's in the courtroom and you're trying to explain away why you said what, why the adjuster said what they said, the type of thing. So that's a really good point, Brandon.
Well, that's a whole nother series.
Yes.
We're out of time. I'm sure we could keep talking all day long, but thank you so much. It's a really invigorating conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for watching this flashback episode of NAAIA. We appreciate your time and hope you found the insights valuable. Stay tuned for more enriching content. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the NAAIA community.